Hello again, everyone. This is Chris Scher, and it's Robert Harding. This is the Citizen Sports Weekly for August 8th, 2014.
Boom.
You know why I didn't mess it up?
Why is that?
It's 8-8.
Oh,
Very easy to remember. Anyways, we'll...
It's his age.
Yeah. Not there yet, buddy. We're going to talk about some sports topics this week, and it's an all NFL edition of the Citizen Sports Weekly. We are excited. Robert's Bills have already played a preseason game and lost. And my Dolphins, they play tonight. And Robert's Bills play again tonight. So they have 2 games within 5 days. Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a smorgasbord.
Don't get hurt.
A preseason football. I know. One series. That's all we need. So we're going to talk about some NFL topics. And the first one we're going to discuss is the recent Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I mean, if there's a word that ceremony means, it means like a real long, drawn-out thing, then that's what ceremony means. Because this thing was a monster. It was almost 5 hours long, and I watched most of it, and I enjoyed it. Robert, though, was fortunate enough that he was actually able to attend the ceremonies in person at Fawcett Stadium in beautiful Canton, Ohio. One of my favorite places to go, by the way. So, Robert, why don't you give us some of your impressions of the Hall of Fame induction ceremony from actually being there?
First of all, loved Canton, loved the Hall of Fame, toured it. It was hectic with all the people in there.
Yeah, worst time to go really is the induction weekend.
Pretty much, yeah. But, it was jam-packed, and, I took a look at some of the exhibits. Obviously, checked out the Hall of Fame gallery with the bus, which is a must-see. And then headed over to the ceremony, and, yeah, it was long. Sitting there, some of the speeches were good. I really like Claude Humphrey's speech. It really was kind of a down-to-earth, you could tell the guy waited a while.
I'd never heard of this guy before he got inducted. And I like to consider myself a fan of pro football history, someone who grew up in the 70s and 80s, who knows a lot of the minor players that maybe someone your age may not know, but I never heard of this guy. So anyway, sorry to interrupt you there.
No, it's okay. Liked his speech. Derek Brooks kicked things off, and he kind of set the tone for long speeches. I think he spoke close to 30, maybe 35 minutes. It was a real doozy. There were others like it. Andre Reed, of course, was the reason I went.
Right.
Thought his speech was great, and the reception for Jim Kelly.
Yeah, and that was emotional.
Awesome.
That was really nice.
Yeah,
it was touching.
There were a lot of Bills fans there. I think it was if you're looking at, the teams that were represented there, the Bills were number one. There were definitely a lot of Giants fans there. Good number of Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans there, oddly enough.
They haven't had many Hall of Famers.
No. So, and I think this is back-to-back years for them, right?
Warren Sapp.
Yeah, with Sapp and
overrated.
Brooks. And, ouch.
Sorry.
Slipped that in there. But it was great to be there. I would echo the comments I heard from someone either in our row or behind us, who said that this isn't something you want to do every year.
Right.
But when your team's there, that's one thing. But there are loyal people who go every year, it seems.
Yep.
But at the same time, for the most part, I think people are in the same boat I am. That it's nice to be there when one of your guys is in, but sitting through that for 4 hours when your team isn't represented, holy moly.
Yeah, it's like I watched it on television, and it was, some of the speeches, I think, look, I understand this is your last moment in the spotlight, and you want to give credit to all of the people that helped you get there, because as you know, getting to the NFL is such a long shot.
Yeah.
And to make it there, and to make it there and then have a Hall of Fame career, there are so many people that helped you get to that point. And you want to thank all of them, and I understand that. But man, I'll tell you, some of those speeches were way too long. I'm sorry, just way too long. And I think that maybe in the future they might have to do something where 20 minutes. I think 20 minutes is a sufficient amount of time.
And a marching band starts playing you off the stage.
I like that, yeah. And they do have some good marching bands in Ohio.
I mentioned this to you, and this is probably the best time to bring it up, but that was my first time, sitting through a ceremony. I watched it at home, but when you're at home, you change the channel. But one of my observations being there is that it started way too late.
Yeah.
To echo your comments, I'm fine with the length of the speeches. I mean, yeah, they could get them under control a
Right.
little bit, but at the same time, you think about, these guys are entering the Hall of Fame. They're one of a select few.
Mm-hmm.
This is a once in a lifetime thing. I'm fine with it,
Right.
but it shouldn't start at 7 o'clock at night.
Right.
It needs to start earlier.
Well, the thing is, it used to be earlier, but they moved it probably for two major reasons. Number one, television, of course, because things that are on night on TV get bigger ratings than they're in the afternoon, especially on the weekends. And second, because these speeches are getting so long, and because you're having so many people being inducted, I believe there was seven. If you start it in the middle of the day, it gets really hot. And speaking as someone, and I'm going to speak from my personal experience, because I've actually covered at least half a dozen baseball Hall of Fame induction ceremonies in Cooperstown, and those are always Sunday at 1 in the afternoon. And at certain times, it gets hot. I mean, it gets really hot where you have to pass, you have to water, and you have people walking around, medical people walking around, making sure that someone hasn't collapsed from heat stroke or something. So I think the NFL might have done it more for the television, but a little bit, because if you have it in the middle of the day, it's going to be pretty hot. You're going to be having people out there all afternoon, and they're going to get hot. If you have it at nighttime, things cool off, and it's a little more easier for the fans to stick with it, I should say, because it's not as hot. But yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it gets really hot. I mean, it's summertime, and in the Northeast, and of course Ohio being the Midwest, it can be in the 90s. The humidity can be up there. A lot of people just can't handle that being in the heat that long. So I think that's the reason why they do it, is more television, and partly because of the heat and everything. So
Yeah. Even if they moved it up an hour, I think it would be tough.
5 o'clock.
Yeah.
5 o'clock's not that bad.
No.
Now, NBA, the Basketball Hall of Fame, their induction ceremony is tonight, and I believe they're starting at 6, and they have like 10 people going in.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to watch that one though. Sorry.
Don't want to see good old
David
D.
Stern.
Stern get in.
Hey, David Stern definitely played a major role in the NBA being what it is today, and he deserves the Hall of Fame spot. That being said,
Getting in too
I'm not a
soon,
big
though.
NBA fan. I'm not going to watch. If it was Dolph Shays' induction, or somebody involved with the Syracuse Nationals or something, then I would watch it. So, but anyways, our next topic is, again, continuing with the NFL. Robert and I are going to discuss our team's, outlook a little bit going into the preseason. We're not going to do full previews, but I think we're going to touch upon some things. And I guess I'll start off with the Dolphins. And just as I was coming in, I found out Rashad Jones, the Dolphins safety, has been suspended for 4 games by the NFL for violating the performance enhancement drug policy. Way to go.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
There we go with the NASCAR analogy. Yeah, but we're not doing a
Had to use that one on the
we're not
end.
doing a 500-mile left-hand turn here. You know what I mean? So that's the second Dolphin to be suspended, because
Deion Jordan?
Deion Jordan. I'm sorry, I was thinking Deion Sims, because that's their tight end. I was just talking about him.
I thought you were going to say Deion
No,
Sanders.
Deion Jordan has been suspended for 4 games for the Dolphins for the exact same thing. So the Dolphins have 2 of their defensive starters out for the first 4 games of the season. Yeah, this is going to look real good, isn't it? I want to be optimistic, though. I'm not going to be a negative Nelly. I think Dolphin fans as a whole, we're very negative people, just because our team has stunk for the last dozen years, even longer, really. It's the Shula curse. So we've had to deal with a lot of negativity, bad play, bad players, bad coaches, bad GMs, bad football. And I think because of that, we're just negative people about this team to begin with. And I want that to change. And I do try to be optimistic about this team going into the season. And there are some things to be optimistic about. I mean, we have a new offensive coordinator, Bill Lazor, former Cornell quarterback from around here. I think he's going to improve the offense. Taney Hill's going to have another year of experience, which I think helps. Brian Hartline, my favorite Dolphin, is healthy, which is good. And Landry, I'm sorry, hold on.
He's thinking.
I'm thinking he's the LSU wide receiver, Javon Landry, I believe. Is Landry's his last name? I definitely am sure about that. I'm sorry that I forgot his first name. A lot of names going through my head.
True
but
fan.
This guy, I think, could be the dark horse rookie of the year. I think this guy is going to put up some nice numbers. Kid's got hands. He can catch. Really can catch. Really got great hands. So I want to be optimistic about the
Gotta have a
offense.
quarterback thrown
Right,
over.
and the offensive line has to be much improved. And of course, Mike Pouncey's going to miss, who knows, maybe even half the season. But I think there's going to be some bumps in the road at the beginning. They got to play New England and Buffalo the first 2 games. I think they could lose both those games, possibly.
Especially that second one.
Yeah, especially that second one. We'll talk about the wager later. But I want to be optimistic that this team's going to play better as the season goes along. And I would love to see a 10-6 finish. Wow. 10-6 would be great. That's the positive person to be talking. But the realistic person is saying another 8-8 season. That's where I think that's going to end up. But you never know. I mean, that's why they play the game. So that's what I'm looking. Defensively, it's going to be interesting. They have the makings of being a very good defense. Koemisi's going to move to the middle linebacker spot. I think that could help out Miami's defense. They should have some decent depth on the defensive line. And the defensive backfield, I think, is maybe their best defensive backfield in many, many years. So we'll see what happens. Robert, time to talk about your wonderful Buffalo Bills.
That's right. Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Wow. That's about the nicest thing Chris has ever said about the Bills.
Well, the camera's on me. I can't. Gotta be nice for
the cameras. Well, I think for the Bills, just kind of as an initial, look at the team, two things stick out. One, probably less important than the second, but regardless, how Jim Schwartz is going to come in, what's going to be different or the same with the defense, because obviously that was the Bills' strongest unit last season. Mike Patton was the defensive coordinator. He has now taken the coaching job in Cleveland. So Jim Schwartz has come in after being canned by Detroit, and he has defensive coaching in his blood. That's what his background is, and from watching the preseason game and looking at, checking out some of the training camp practices, it looks like, the defense as a whole really hasn't changed. I mean, there's going to be, a lot of the same elements to it that we saw with Mike Patton. I think the one difference, though, will be the run defense. That was a big hole in the defense last year. They were good in some parts. In other games, they gave up huge yardage.
Not against Miami, I can tell you that firsthand.
Well, that's true. But that was a concern in some games, and so this year they're really looking to solidify that, to improve that area of the defense. The second thing, and I think this is most important, E.J. Manuel.
Yeah, and that's really the whole team, in my opinion. Yeah. The success of that team is going to fall upon his shoulders.
Yeah, and just like Chris with Tannehill and the Dolphins, it's the same thing with E.J. Manuel. They're talking about how this team, with the talent that they have on both sides of the ball, could, and I put asterisks around that, right, could make the playoffs.
Right.
Because like you said, you have to play the games. And one of the biggest factor in whether the Bills will make it or not is E.J. Manuel. You have all the weapons there. You have C.J. Spiller, Fred Jackson, Anthony Dixon, Bryce Bowen, all these running backs, and then not to even mention the receivers, Sammy Watkins and Robert Woods, and so on. You have all these weapons there. You have to have the quarterback there to throw to him. Is E.J. Manuel the guy? And that's the question going into this season, because last year we really didn't get enough of a sample. He was hurt for part of the season. There were some games he played great in, other games that he just completely stunk. So hopefully this year he can be healthy, he can play all 16, and we'll see what this kid can do. But it's going to be on his shoulders. He's got the weapons there. There's really no excuses. Look at Miami. They have a quarterback there who certainly has improved since his rookie year. He's got a bunch of weapons. Can they get it done with those weapons? And the Bills are in the same boat. Yeah,
it's kind of funny. I think you could almost see both these teams finishing 8-8 when it's all said and done, if things don't happen the way that we want them to happen. Because both of them do have the potential to make the playoffs. There's talent there. The question is the quarterback play going to be there? And is the coaching going to be there? I think that's another factor, because, Doug Marrone was a solid college coach. He won a couple pinstripe bowls, right? And, but in the NFL so far, he hasn't really shown that he's, a great coach. And he may be a great coach in the future, but right now we haven't seen it. And obviously, you can't be fair by judging him by only this one season. You really can't. But I think season 2 is where you start to see, is this guy, an NFL caliber coach? And then the other X factor with the Bills is the sale, because the team will be sold during the season. There will be a new owner coming in, and he may want to bring in his own guys.
Yeah.
If Donald Trump gets the Bills, I don't think Doug Marrone is going to be with them next year. That's my hunch, unless they make the playoffs or do very well.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. So, Robert, anything else you want to add?
No, that's it.
All right, folks.
Talked
That's
enough football for one
I know.
day.
I can always talk football. I can hardly wait, man. Oh, I'm getting so excited. Well, that's another edition of the Citizen Sports Weekly. We appreciate you folks watching. And, if you liked the video and you want to share the link with your friends, feel free to. We always appreciate the support. Until then, we'll see you next week.